All right. Good morning out there. I know I missed a couple weeks. Let's double check and make sure everything still works like it's supposed to, theoretically. Checking one, checking one. Okay. We are good. I know it's a little early, but we're here anyway. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Resales. My name is Ryan. I get stuff from yard sales, thrift stores, estate sales, backyards, front yards, insides, and outsides. Try and make a few extra bucks online. I was not here last week. I didn't have a ton to talk about and had some stuff I wanted to get done. Um, got some stuff I want to talk about today though. And so I got some finds. I got a project I'm working on reselling that I think everybody needs to keep an eye out for, because it's a little work, but it's easy money. And more and some of the finds I had over this past weekend at a handful of it was like estate sale crazy. It was like three or four estate sales. I think I hit three, and two of them I managed to snag some stuff and make some deals. So it was good. Anyway, let's jump into it. Okay, finds. Uh, First off is something I think I'm gonna cancel this one, because this got smushed a little too much. So it wasn't in storing your hats. If you look at this, yeah, it's not really holding its form back really well. So I may cancel this sale. I'm going to take a look at the picture, but this is a little too rough. So this did sell for 14 bucks. I had it forever. And it's really sad, but and it didn't fit me, which is why I didn't keep it. Because I like the style a little bit. But I'd like to have like a nice like Indiana Jones style fedora. But if you see, make sure you store these with some like on top of something or with some support. Don't shove them in the box and have stuff smush them, because that's what will happen. So it's no huge loss, and I think I'd rather take it's a potential neg, and I think I'd rather refund it and get it over with and take that hit that way instead. So that's the way that goes. All right. So the bad news out of the way. Sales. Books. A.E. Van Vogt, who was sort of a classic sci-fi paperback writer. These three went for $8. His stuff really doesn't sell that well. I've kind of stopped grabbing them. Even though there was a handful of stuff, like he was really influential in certain aspects. But just kind of sad. I think along those lines sometimes that, some of these old books with some of these really, really, really great, crazy covers, aren't almost worth as, these book types of books are really worth about $1 to $2 a piece. It's the type of thing, if I had a booth, I would put them in the booth for like $2 a pop. They'd probably do okay. But $8 for these three, and I've sat on them for a while. So it's really kind of profit at this point. And it's just it's a good sale to get them out of the way. Next up, another $8 sale is this Hulk comic trade paperback. I bought a big batch of these, mostly for my kids to read, but it was a bunch of doubles. And this is one of the ones it sold for $8. So it'll get out. And actually don't know that I'm going to make a ton of money on those. Not as much as I thought I would. I bring them out to the flea market. I can't get $2 a piece for them. So that's annoying. But I think some will eventually sell. We'll see. Next up is a Mario. This is a Mario. Now, if you notice, this is actually kind of a real action figure. It's not like a McDonald's figure or something. So grab these when you see them. This went for $8. But they're all worth, in that range, 8 to 10, 12, some even more, depending on how rare they are. But I've had this one a couple months. This just didn't sit too long. So Captain Hat Mario, I think Jack's Pacific, maybe, I don't know, made these. But like I said, it's a real action figure. This isn't your McDonald's level stuff. So it's a real fun Mario figure. Next up, So I wasn't sure about these, but I went on the principle that old repair manuals may sell, and this is a set of 1976 Ream mini manuals, 9 pocket service manuals. So before the internet, you had these things. Before YouTube, showing you how to do everything. Let's see, this is for an oil furnace. Let's see what these are for. Oh, neat little slip cover here. They're apparently impossible to get out of. Actually, we're not going to fight that too much. But Rheem air conditioned stuff and furnaces and all that sort of thing. So mini repair manuals. This went for $9 for this set. Thought I would go for a little more. I think it only cost me $1. So it was a good chance to take. It's been sitting a while, so I'm glad to see that gone. Okay, on to the good two good sales. First up, this cervical collar, rigid cervical collar, free back for when you want to go to court and pretend like you've gotten an accident. $30. 30? 40. $40. Picked this up at an estate sale. I had this and 2 knee braces and 2 ankle braces unused at an estate sale for a few bucks a piece. So it was nice to snag these. Unused medical stuff like braces and that sort of thing, always worth checking out because they move. You'll find I sold one of the knee braces. I sold that, and the other knee brace gets a bunch of hits. The ankle brace is not so much, but I have sold another couple knee braces before, so they're worth grabbing. Finally, what you may have come here for, this bad boy. This is one of those finds that it's being a guy. I'm like, can I keep that knife? I want that knife. I don't want to sell that knife. But I need the money more than I need the knife. Tough decision. This is a Camillus Air Force survival knife, pre-1967, I believe. These are there are dated ones and undated ones. The ones that are not dated are the earlier ones. And so this is an earlier Air Force survival knife, and no sheath or anything like that. I've actually sold one with a sheath before. And this went for $60. I picked it up at a yard sale. A guy had a pile of knives, and most of them were cheap Chinese made ones. And he didn't want. He wanted way too little for this one, and I don't know that he knew what he had, and he thought he had some other stuff that was worth more, and he didn't. He had some action figures and some basketball card stuff, and he was asking like almost like retail prices for that sort of thing. And he had a pile of knives. I was like, how much for that? And he said $10. I was like, yeah, I'll take that, because he thought he knew what he was doing, and he didn't. But that's what happens sometimes when you're not educated about what you got. So this thing's pretty cool. American-made knives, older American-made knives, will always sell. I'm almost convinced of this. They always have value. I don't know that there are any worth less than $10 unless they're completely shot. And even then, like if this was just the blade, even with like a handle that had been destructed or something, if it was still like a solid piece of steel, it would still be worth probably $10 to $20. American-made knives hold their value really well, particularly like the non-folding regular knives like this. And so they're great to find. They're fun to have. I probably wouldn't have never used it. I have a K-bar I kept from another estate sale a long time ago. I kept that K-bar, but this one was a fun find and a fun sell. It took about 3 weeks to sell. So if you find it with the sheath and the sharpener, it's worth even more. And that because those are even a little bit rare, but really neat knife. It will hold if you ever sharpen it. It hold an edge. really, really well. So get them when you find them. And if you're a real male, if you're a real guy, you know the struggle. When you do find one, you're like, but it's so cool. And we'll sip to that. Okay. Finds this week. Hit about 3 estate sales, not just like yard sales, but like estate sales this week. And 2 like had people willing to deal, which is kind of rare on first days. But they were kind of wanting to get stuff out the door. So that's what we hit. So one of them had that's a Jerusalem Bible. I actually sold one of these recently, so this will probably go pretty quick. Had some old books that I snagged because they were really inexpensive. Like they were wanting like $1 a piece for. So I picked up everything that was like pre-World War II because you can sometimes lock those up. And occasionally, I haven't even looked some of them up yet. It was just like they were so inexpensive that I snagged them for that. But they also had for even like what was that? Oh yeah, Complete Works of William Shakespeare. A stack of, and these were all like really inexpensive, like sheet music for $0.25 a piece. I didn't even bother looking it up because I knew I could probably, it was worth grabbing. That estate sale. There were some other books I pulled out of that. I don't see them. There's some like history of a certain Air Force base. That was a really neat find. They had some old I had to pass on them because they were too worn out. They had some older Dr. Seuss young reader books, and those are good finds, but these were trashed. Otherwise, I would have snagged them. Those. So they're in here somewhere. They're over there. And it was a stack of like 1940s yearbooks for cheap. So yearbooks are worth grabbing. I would say if you can get them for $1 or less, particularly if they're in decent shape. I picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've probably picked up 10 over the past few months and have sold 3 out of that 10 for about $20 a hit. So between $20 and $30. I suspect if you find one with a celebrity, then you can get a little bit more for it. But those are rare. But there's a lot of, particularly small town, yearbooks tend to do okay because it's almost one of the few local history things they have. So it's a local history hit is what it is. And people like it. People like that sort of stuff. So there was one of the fastest sales of a yearbook I had was this dude in like this small Illinois town of like 3,000 people. And it went like that because there's almost nothing I think out there about that town. So anyway, the other yard sale, this 90s Braves shirt, which probably won't sell real quick right now, but it was a fun find for that. Great color, by the way, on this thing. So, and it's a kid's shirt. If this is a men's like extra large, this would have been even better find, but this is like an adult. Yeah, this is a boys 10-12. So, but still a fun find. Like vintage t-shirts when you snag them, like 90s and before. Sometimes even some early 2000s stuff can go pretty well. So I'm always stoked to find some of those. And you know my bread and butter, hymnals. There was a big stack of hymnals at this yard sale. I got like 3 Baptist hymnals and a few other ones that I knew would sell. A handful of old ones, and she sold them. I made a deal on all of them, so I may have picked up about 20 hymnals there to flip, and it was great. I think I'll make my money back on 2 or 3 of them because I know they tend to sell pretty quick. The ones that I know tend to sell pretty quickly. So that'll be great to get out the door. Finally, I had spoken earlier a little bit about something that's easy money. Magic cards. How are magic cards easy money? Magic cards are probably worth the most out of all your collectible card games. If you find a box full, particularly of unsorted, maybe not unused, but like unsorted magic cards from somebody who is really kind of acting like they just want to get rid of them, grab them and grab them quickly. There are several yard sites. The one I like is Card Kingdom that buy uh, Magic cards as cheap as a nickel a piece. Like they have a card list that you can go through and make you a big list of cards that you have, and they'll buy them from you. And it's a little time intensive because you got to look every card up. But I'm sitting on about $100 worth of cards. I got a big box of cards a couple of years ago. And I went through and sold. I went through one time and sold about $100 worth of cards to Card Kingdom. And on top of the handful I sold on eBay, I took some of the more valuable ones and sold them on eBay. Uh, this time I'm just going straight Card Kingdom. There's a couple of maybe $10 cards, and Card Kingdom's paying like $7 for them. So, which is very much worth grabbing them and just sending them to Card Kingdom, because rather than putting them on eBay, because it's instant, easy money, and I don't have to worry about anything. So I've got about a stack out of about probably 5,000 cards right now. I'm sitting on a stack of about 300, and I have another couple thousand to go through, but they're going to be the easier ones to go through. But it was a little time. It took me a couple days. It took a few hours, but you throw on an audiobook, throw on some podcasts or something, and you start going to the website and start typing and cranking them out. And that money, it really kind of starts adding up. So it's worth doing, particularly if you're kind of in a bind and don't have anything else to do. And hey, I got this big stack of Magic cards. Go through them, sell them off. Say you go through their you go on, they click on the sell us your cards link, list them, like look it up, tell them how many you got, and it'll generate a list almost kind of like a checkout cart, and then you follow their directions on how to sort them and how to ship them, and you send them off, and they'll look at them and they'll do some grading. They're not gonna they give values based on grades of the cards. So, and they're a little picky about their grades. And I don't know that unless it's a super rare, like first edition Magic card, I don't know how well they do with buying cards that are really beat up. But a lot of Magic players take care of their cards to where they're going to be near mint. So you can send them off and get them sold that way, and it's cool. So anyway, that's today. I got a chunk of boxing up to do. I was out yesterday because I was over in Alabama, or as I like to call it, Fail-Alabama, where I didn't fail for it was a pretty successful work trip. And I got back, but that means work is stacked up. It means I got work to do, and you got work to do because we're done here. So have a good day, and I will catch y'all next time. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll go from there. Bye.